Strange Shadows, a Clark Ashton Smith podcast.
Author, the poet, with strange austral songs in his heart and the umber of high and heavy suns on his face, had come back to his native city of Cerngoth in Innsmouth by the Hyperborean sea. Far had he wandered in the quest of that alien beauty which had fled always before him like the horizon, beyond Comorium of the white numberless spires, and beyond the marsh-grown jungles to the south of Comorium he had floated on nameless rivers, and had crossed the half-legendary realm of Sho Valparnomi, upon whose diamond-sanded, ruby-gravelled shore an ignescent ocean was said to beat forever with fiery spume. He had beheld many marvels and things incredible to relate. The uncouthly carven gods of the south, to whom blood was spilt on sun-approaching towers. The plumes of the Husim, which were many yards in length and were coloured like pure flame. The mailed monsters of the austral swamps. The proud argosies of Mu and Antilia, which moved by enchantment without oar or sail. The fuming peaks that were shaken perpetually by the struggles of imprisoned demons. But, walking at noon on the streets of Cerngoth, he met a stranger marvel than these. Idly, with no expectation of other than homely things, he beheld the White Sybil of Polarium.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 5 of Strange Shadows, the Clark Ashton Smith podcast. The voice you just heard was Helena Nash, reading the opening of today's story, The White Sybil. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Poynton.
And I'm the other one, Tim Mendes. Yes, we're into full-on poetic territory this time, aren't we? Some of the language in this is a thing of beauty.
Peak Smith, isn't it, this one?
It is,
terms of,
yeah.
I'm going to talk about technicolour later on because this one really pops.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's one of those, it'd make a great sort of animation, wouldn't it? You know, one of those really psychedelic stop-motion animation kind of things.
Yeah, it's don't know if we must have spoken about this before because we've talked about adaptations and the dearth of Smith adaptations. But yeah, animation seems to be an unexplored field as far as Smith stories are concerned.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's been quite a few of Lovecraft. A lot of them are shorts, and some of them are very, very good.
Yeah,
so,
there's a very good Dreamlands one, I remember.
Yeah, Dream Quest. Yeah, Dream Quest. That was really good. Yeah.
And that was kind of stop motion-y, wasn't it, I think?
Yes, it was. Yeah. And there was that Japanese one, the Dunwich horror. Yeah, with the claymation and stuff, that was really uncanny valley. That was great fun. Yeah.
So, if anyone's stuck for an animation idea, well, you could start with this story. This would be a very good one to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get into it, we just want to give a shout out to a few other podcasts. We're going to start with the good friends of Jackson Elias. We had Scott Dorwood in for the Innsmouth Book Club the other day. He popped into the Gilman Hotel for an excellent chat. The Good Friends is a Call of Cthulhu podcast, so it's about horror gaming, but also the fiction that surrounds it as well. They cover a wide range of stories from the Lovecraftian through to, well, all types of horror. Well worth a listen. And we'd also like to give a shout out to the 30-plus minutes with H.P. Lovecraft guys as well, across the pond. Regular contributors to this show, of course. And finally, we'd like to give a shout out to the People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos, who cover, I think, the broadest amount of Lovecraftian material you could think of, really.
Yeah, I've been on it talking about Nyarlathotep, and it was literally that. They were just talking about the old Haunter of the Dark and all that. So
yeah, and they have an impressive array of guests apart from such esteemed people as yourself, sir.
Indeed.
I've had a little chat on there as well. I think people like Ken Hyatt have been on and all sorts. Yes, so if Strange Shadows and Innsmouth Book Club aren't enough, then there's 3 more excellent podcasts for you to pour into your ear holes.
4. actually, but I'm going to be completely self-serving here because another one you may be interested in is my other podcast, The Monster in My Bed, which I co-host with Zoe Burgess, which looks at basically monster erotica and romance in movies. And we've got a new episode, which, as when this goes out, it will have just gone out as well. And we're starting an ongoing series. We're following the episodes as they come out of the anime series, which is on Netflix, The Summer Hikaru Died. And it's really, really good, sort of cosmic, Lovecraftian horror with sort of coming of age, and it's very queer coded and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, very different, and I'm thoroughly enjoying covering it. And we did the first 3 episodes, so those will be going out as we speak.
Excellent. And the only other thing to mention, of course, before we get into the story is the Innsmouth Literary Festival 25. We're just sorting out the gaming this week, so keep an eye out for announcements about that. I believe there's an announcement about the guests coming out in the next couple of days, some of the panels we've got lined up.
Indeed, yes. Well, I can reveal the panels and things like that. We're going to be looking at the use of history in weird fiction. We're going to be looking at uncanny transmissions. So that's going to cover podcasts, fanzines, anything that gets, Lovecraftian and weird fiction out to the masses. And we're also going to be looking at weird fiction unbound. So out of the pages of musty old tomes and into theatre, film, music, and all that kind of stuff. Because one of our guests is going to be the musician Paul Rowland, who will also be doing a talk on his biography of H.P. Lovecraft. We're also going to have presentations from The Key of Dreams, and Heather Miller will be doing a little talk on H.P. Lovecraft and Herbert Melville.
Nice.
And Lovecraftian tarot readings.
Yes, I was going to say, as if that wasn't enough, Ali Wilkes is going to be doing some Lovecraftian tarot readings. Marvellous.
Brilliant.
So, as always, we'll put the links to everything we mentioned here in the show notes below. Okay, let's get into the story, shall we? Shall we start with the publication history?
Now, in a strange coincidence, the seeds of this story go back to 1929 and a prose poem by the name of The Muse of Hyperborea. Does that sound familiar, Rob?
It sounds very familiar. Almost a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Indeed, because straight by weird serendipity, that is one of the poems that I chose in our last bonus episode. So I'd read it out and we discussed it. I didn't realize at the time that it was an influence on this. So there you go. So you can go back and check that out. Later, Smith made an entry in his Black Book. Now, Smith's Black Book is basically his version of Lovecraft's commonplace book. It's where he wrote down story ideas and all that kind of business. This was actually the second entry into his Black Book, and it was under the title of The White Sybil of Polarian. But he first mentioned this story idea in a letter to Genevieve Sully, dated July the 12th, 1932, and he finished it 2 days later on the 14th.
2 days.
2 days. So there you go. He wrote it in 2 days, basically.
Right.
Now, here we go. We've got your drum roll ready. Smith first subbed it to Weird Tales, where? Yeah, it was rejected. Yeah. I imagine not enough action. I imagine it was that old chestnut.
The action is in the description. It's, well, I mean,
Yeah.
preaching to the converted here, aren't we?
I know. Yeah.
So I'll be bringing Farnsworth up again later on. So save some moaning because we'll have a bit more later on.
We're not done with him yet here either. So Smith shelved the story until November, where he revised it. And on the 12th, basically he cut 200 words out of it and changed the ending.
Right.
Now, we have both endings to look at today. The version that we're reading out is the original version, which he'd sent to Genevieve Sully. We've also got the alternative ending, which is the one that ended up being published. After the revisions, he tried Weird Tales again. Drum roll.
Computer says no.
Yeah, computer says no. No, again. It was denied. It was eventually printed in 1934 as a pamphlet. A teenage science fiction fan from Everett, Pennsylvania, by the name of William L. Crawford, solicited stories from Smith for a semi-pro magazine called Unusual Stories. Now, he sent him the revised version, which he'd now renamed the White Sybil, and he basically printed it in a pamphlet along with Men of Avalon by David H. Keller, which I've never read.
Not familiar with that. No.
And but this guy, William L. Crawford, is the one who would later publish Lovecraft's Shadow over Innsmouth in book form.
Yeah, the name was, it rang a bell, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that's how it eventually got printed. Now, later on, he tried once again to sell it to Weird Tales in the 1940s. But this is when it was being run by Dorothy McIlwraith, who, I love that name. I think it's one of the best names ever.
Wow, it's like a Tolkien character.
Exactly, in it. Dorothy McIlwraith. It's brilliant. And again, it was denied, which is a real shame.
I presume that pamphlet was not a huge print run then as well. I presume that was like almost like a fanzine kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was semi-pro. So yeah, what we'd now just call an indie press, I guess.
So fair play to the guy for getting it out. I mean, that's a big thing at that time. But again, one of Smith's most poetic and descriptive stories gone by the wayside.
Yeah, it's all a bit sad, isn't it?
Yes, poor old Clark. You do feel for him at times, don't you? With it's putting out this kind of work. I suppose the saving graces there is, I say it only took him 2 days. I imagine that was 2 days of quite intense, feverish work. It has that feel about it almost. It's popped out like a fever dream.
It has that stream of consciousness quality to it, doesn't it? Yeah.
And all the better for it, as opposed to some of those science fiction stories where he's obviously laboured over the plot a bit more.
Yeah.
And they don't have quite the same, not the same Smith appeal.
No, it's definitely got a more organic quality, hasn't it? It's you can feel that. Yeah, he's got just he's just sat there and gone with it.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to our favourite words then. Now, I've got quite a list here. I don't know that I'll go through all of these because I'm pretty sure we've covered some of these before. But yeah, there's quite a few I had to look up actually.
Yeah.
Starting with austral. Now,
it's the first line, isn't it? Because I had to look that up as well.
Of course, when you see it, you think, of course, that's what it means, because Australia. But I had no association with that at all. Austral just means south or southern. Yeah. So yeah, Australia is
it's relating to the southern hemisphere, isn't it? Specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first one again. It's another one, but you can what it means by how it's written. But I've never heard of this before. Southroun.
Right, yeah.
Which actually means a person from the south or a shandy drinker. Of course not.
You added that in, you naughty man. Oh, well played, sir. Funnily enough, I was familiar with that because going back to Tolkien, Sauron recruited the Southrons as one of his army.
Of course.
I'm not sure if they were the Haradrim or if they were separate. I think the Haradrim and the Southrons might have been two separate peoples. So yeah, I'd heard that. And I've never drank shandy in my life. That's not actually true. I'm going to go with ells for the next one, ELLS, which I was sort of familiar with, but I just checked. It's a unit of measurement. Specifically, it used to relate to cloth, and the average English ell was about 45 inches, or just over a metre in new money.
Now, the next one, again, is one of those you can clearly infer what it means, but I don't think I've ever seen it written down like this, which is preterhuman, because obviously we get preternatural and superhuman and all the rest of it, but I don't think I've ever seen preterhuman before. But it basically means more than human or beyond what is human. So if you want to go into Philip K. Dick territory, more human than human.
Oh, yes, very nice. Yeah, that's a Lovecraftian feel to it. Me that, but I always thought it was the other way around. I was thinking pre-human kind of thing. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to go for another one, which this is a word we've all used frequently, eider, Eider, because we all have an eider down.
Indeed.
I never realised that the eider is the name of the duck
Yes.
that produces the down, and it's a sea duck, so it's going to have a lot of feathers on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my next one, another quite interesting one, gracile,
Yes.
which means of slender build.
You and me hear that a lot, don't we? I hear people saying, "Look at that gracile chap going past.
Yes.
Doesn't he look fine in tweed?"
And his pith helmet.
No, you're taking the pith.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. That's a nice word, gracile. I'm going to go for, now, the pronunciation of this word is under some dispute, but I've done extensive research and I've come up with what appears to be the consensus, machicolate.
Oh, well, I've always known it as maculated.
Yes, this is...
But that could be just the northern, because... Yeah.
Well, I was looking a bit maculated there, lads. The sound has that ring to it. Yeah. It's, on battlements, you have that bit where they can drop stuff through, like boiling oil or rocks onto the poor sods below.
Yeah.
So it's that bit that sort of sticks out from a battlement and has a sort of opening in the bottom. Now,
my next one, I know exactly what this meant, but I'm just doing it because I like the sound of the word. Mellifluous. It's such a great word, which basically means pleasingly smooth and musical to the ear.
I'm going to finish with, well, it looks like it should be pronounced vacillant in English, but I believe it's probably from the French vacillant, and it just means wavering. So obviously things vacillate, but vacillant is a much nicer way of putting it, I think.
Yeah, nice.
So let's work into the story then, and we have that marvellous opening paragraph, which is Smithian world building at its finest. A whole host of names there. Some of them are familiar, but speaking of names, the first thing I want to bring up is the name of the story itself, the White Sybil, because I expect there's a whole generation of us who, when they hear the word Sybil, will think, yes, Basil. Basil.
Yeah, exactly.
A little puff adder. Yeah, so 40 towers. But Sybil goes back a long, long way. The earliest reference we have in Greece is Heraclitus in 500 BC, talking about Sybil, but it predates the ancient Greek. And basically, a Sybil is a prophet, or more specifically, a woman who channels the words of a deity. Very widespread. And it comes right through into the more modern age as well. In fact, in Christianity, we have Cumaean, the Sybil, who is said to have foretold the coming of Christ. In medieval literature, the Sybil becomes a sort of enchantress figure, almost like a Morgana Le Fay type character. But then we also have actual historical characters as well, such as Hildegard of Bingen, who was known as the Sybil of the Rhine. So very widespread use. Basically, it's this idea of a woman who is a prophet, mentioned a few times in Smith stories as well, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Crops up quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, the Tambrazeros is one example I can think of. I think, wasn't it the Sybil who told everyone to leave Comorium, I think?
Yeah.
Or was that the Testament of Athaeus? I'm not sure.
I think it was the Testament of Athaeus. Yeah. oh, Athaeus.
And yet Heraclitus has this description, the Sybil with frenzied mouth uttering things not to be laughed at, unadorned and unperfumed, yet reaches to 1,000 years with her voice by aid of the god. So yeah, there seems to be this overriding description of them as frenzied women. You almost think of people who are putting themselves into a trance state or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of seers, like you always get in them old movies, don't you? Those sort of wonderfully wizened old crones who sit in the corner and go into, their eyes go white and they roll bend back of the head. Like in Fulci. Fulci did it a lot, didn't he? And like City of the Living Dead and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Which actually there's a connection there because obviously Fulci used the Book of Eibon. So,
oh yes, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of colour in his films, which is going to
Yes.
be a theme running through this episode, I think. Now, I have a question for you, sir, and I expect you to know the answer.
I know exactly where you're going here. Go on.
Cerngoth or Kerngoth?
I would say Cerngoth, right? Do you know why? Because, like, I was actually moaning about this recently. People seem to create subgenres all the time.
Right.
It's like, obviously you've always had like your synth goth and things like this and all that kind of stuff, right? But people have started creating their own. So you've got like tropigoth.
Tropigoth, was that something in a hot climate or something?
Yeah, Florida. It's like, so they're tropigoth bands because they're in Florida, and so I created my own chippy goth, which is at Macclesfield, right? So it's people in black boiler suits hanging around outside chippies,
Absolutely,
in the
absolutely.
rain, listening to Joy Division on repeat. So this, for me, this is basically a bunch of scientists in black lab coats with eyeliner, Cerngoth.
Nice, based on the Lake Geneva shoreline.
Exactly.
Tropical. I don't think of. Is Florida tropical? Is that an official classification? When you say tropical, I'm thinking of other places than Florida.
Well, especially as you have bands like in a lot of massively healthy goth scene in places like Costa Rica and Brazil and like South America.
All right, so, of course, yeah.
But they don't call themselves tropical.
But there's all that great imagery already in those cultures, right?
Yeah. Oh, Mexico's got a great goth scene. There's some tremendous bands out of Mexico.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, we're sticking with Cerngoth. And as I said, we've got some other names here that are very familiar because we are back in Hyperborea, of course.
Mm.
And this shadow over Hyperborea, this icy shadow that is mentioned quite a bit in Smith, and of course this develops as we go through. I wonder if he thought of this from the start. I'm trying to remember what the first Hyperborea story was. Was it Satamprazeros? Was that the first?
No, I think it was like the final incantation or something, wasn't it?
Right. I can't quite
I think it was
remember.
one of those shorter pieces, which is to see like a wizard doing wizardy things.
But this idea of this glacier slowly creeping down in what is now Greenland, heralding the end of the civilization, develops more and more as we go through these stories. So this feeling of, we have a sort of declined civilization already in some aspects, but we've got this, it's not really an impending doom, because the thing I like about this is a glacier is, well, it's glacial. It's not like Pompeii, is it?
No. Yeah.
What was that loud boom? Oh shit!
Game over.
Yeah. It's like the creeping doom. I mean, we could draw parallels with modern day, perhaps, in some ways. But I'm sure there are people back then saying, "No, don't worry. No, there's no glacier. No, we'll be all right. We're not moving."
What glacier? Yeah.
And it becomes personified, doesn't it, Smith, at one point as well, as we'll see later on.
Well, yeah, because I was going to actually say this really works as some brilliant foreshadowing for the coming of the White Worm, which is one of my favourite stories by Smith, or anybody. I love that story. Yeah. So, yeah.
And colour, I'm going to say it again here. I mean, it's just diamond sanded, ruby gravelled. An ignescent ocean was said to beat forever with fiery spume. It's very evocative without being overly detailed or descriptive.
Well, this is why I brought up that poem, which you can see the influence on, the Muse of Hyperborea, because it was basically a page of text with so much world building in it. And he's done exactly the same thing here, just in 2 paragraphs. He's set the scene perfectly. You know where they are. You can see it. You can picture it in your mind's eye. That's talent.
Yes. And we mentioned the Muse of Hyperborea there. If we turn to Steve Barron's Clark Ashton Smith, A Critical Guide to the Man and His Work, he also talks about another source for this story, which is a prose poem called The Traveller, which I believe was written in 1922, so about 10 or so years before. And I'll just read you the opening of that. Stranger, where goest thou? With thy brow the alien suns have darkened. Wanderest thou in search of cities greater than Rome? with fanes more white than the summer clouds, or the foam of hyperboreal seas? Or farest thou to the lands lit by the baleful and calamitous beacons of volcanoes? Or seekest thou an extremer shore, where the red and monstrous lilies are like innumerable flambeaux held aloft on the verge of the waveless waters?
Nice. Nice. Yeah, something when we covered the Muse of Hyperborea, we were having some speculation about, because it's one of those that you could take two ways, whether it was an actual person or the place itself. But I think now we've got the context.
Yes, because now we see the person.
Indeed. Yeah.
And Tortha, the poet, again, the central character seems like another Smithian cipher.
It's a Smith cipher, yeah.
Yeah, very large. He knew not whence she had come, but suddenly she was before him in the noontide throng. Amid the tawny girls of Cerngoth, with their russet hair and blue-black eyes, she was like an apparition descended from the boreal moon. Goddess or ghost or woman, he knew not which. She passed fleetly to some unknowable bourne, a creature of snow and ice and northern light, with unbound hair of onest silver gold, with eyes that were like moon-pervaded pools, and lips that were smitten with the same pallor as the brow and bosom. Her gown was of some filmy white fabric, pure and ethereal as her person. So although she's a face at first just ghostly, a whiter shade of pale,
yes,
she is a person, or a being at least. I don't know if we can say a person as such, but she is an actual being, at least to Tortha.
Indeed. Well, like you were saying about the use of colour, because again, that's all the description of the people of the Sybil herself. It's all colour, isn't it? It really does pop in the mind. And I like the fact that, because you can see how she would stand out in a crowd in the pure white against the red hairs and the people with the red hair and the more tawny skin and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, totally. Again, is this one of those examples of the monomania?
Indeed.
Perhaps he just catches, well, I mean, it is that. He catches a glimpse and that's it, isn't it? That's his lot.
Yeah, sort of, it's like a kind of eerily reminiscent of Don't Look Now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the red raincoat. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's a common trope in ghost films specifically, like the Grudge, where and all that kind of stuff, right? And you'd see the figure off the corner into the corner of your eye, kind of thing. It's almost like that.
Yeah. Now, I want to draw a parallel with Robert E. Howard here, because as I was reading this story, the description, and also to some extent the plot, put me very much in mind of The Frost Giant's Daughter. This was a Conan story that Howard wrote in 1932 and submitted to Farnsworth Wright at Weird Tales, and guess what? Wright rejected it.
Yeah, of course he did.
I think Howard rewrote it under another title and tried submitting it again, but, there we go.
I've done that before. I've done that before, and it worked.
This is one of the classic Conan stories. In fact, in terms of the timeline of Conan, this is the earliest Conan story. It wasn't in terms of when it was written, but this is a very young Conan. And instead of going south into civilization, he's gone north into the lands of the Aesir and the Vanir. So the story is basically a take on the Daphne and Apollo myth, except he switched the roles. Daphne is the goddess in this, and Apollo is the mortal. So it's the Frost Giant's daughter and Conan, and she tries to lure him away to her brothers, the Frost Giants. Spoiler alert. Now, there are some issues possibly with this story, but that's something we'll get into if we cover this on the IBC or something. But I just wanted to read a couple of bits from it, particularly this description, bearing in mind what we've just heard. So Conan is the last survivor of a battle, is knocked unconscious, is in the snowy northern wastes, and he wakes up. Before him, swaying like a sapling in the wind, stood a woman. To his dazed eyes, her body was like ivory, and save for a light veil of gossamer, she was naked as the day. Her slender feet were whiter than the snow they spurned. She laughed down at the bewildered warrior with a laughter that was sweeter than the rippling of silvery fountains and poisonous with cruel mockery. His gaze went again to her unruly locks, which at first glance he had thought to be red. Now he saw that they were neither red nor yellow, but a glorious compound of both colours. He gazed spellbound. Her hair was like elfin gold. The sun struck it so dazzlingly that he could scarcely bear to look upon it. Her eyes were likewise neither wholly blue nor wholly grey, but of shifting colours and dancing lights, and clouds of colours he could not have named. Her full red lips smiled, and from her slender feet to the blinding crown of her billowy hair, her ivory body was as perfect as the dream of a god. Am I not beautiful, O man? Like dawn running naked on the snows, he muttered, his eyes burning like those of a wolf.
Nice. Oh, the opening line was eerily reminiscent of Elton John. Like a sapling in the wind.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And I thought this was interesting because both written about the same time. So I don't think we could say that one read the other and then was influenced by it, but it's something we often see with the big three or the circle in general. Mm-hmm. This confluence of ideas, they're all surfing the same wave.
It'd be interesting. I don't know the date it was written when Derleth was doing like his Ithaca stuff, because some of the scripted passages again, and it's the same. It's obviously not the same, but there is, yeah. So all of a sudden they all decided to start doing snowy.
Yeah.
Weird,
and strange elfin women luring people away, because the plot is very similar in both. The Sybil or the Frost Giant's daughter lure the person into another place, a liminal space. As we can see in this, I think it's a very sort of fae or fairy space in both of them. Now, they both end in fairly different ways because, of course, Howard and Smith, to me, they're both technicolour writers. Yeah. You know, to come back to that. When you read other things of the time, you can read a good yarn, a good adventure yarn, but these, they're full colour. Everything else seems a bit black and white. But where they differ is Smith tends towards the sensual,
yes,
and Howard towards the violence.
I was going to say one's for violence, one's for rumpy pumpy. Yeah. It's Well, it's interesting. Yeah,
there's a little bit of crossover, but by and large, you know, there's going to be blood on the snow in a Conan story.
Of course there is,
and a severed arm or two or something.
Yeah. But one of the other writers I would say who definitely tended towards the technicolour was Frank Belknap Long. His stuff always, but even more so, his stuff always seems very psychedelic to me. You know,
it's quite trippy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is all very trippy stuff. Yeah.
So Talther has heard about the White Sybil, that mysterious being who was rumoured to come and go as if by some preterhuman agency in the cities of Hyperborea. No man had ever learned her name, her nativity, or her dwelling place, but she was said to descend like a spirit from the bleak mountains to the north of Cerngoth. So there we are. Other people do know her. I wonder if it's a case of, if I don't look at her, she won't bother me. If I ignore her, she'll go away, which is a bit like that kind of denial thing again, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's interesting. I like the fact that nobody had ever dared to accost or follow her. Often she came and went in eerie silence, but sometimes in the marts or public squares, she would utter weird prophecies and cryptic tidings of doom. So, yeah, other people can see her, but it seems to be selective, doesn't it? It's almost like she's got some kind of glamour or something, you know, where...
Well, she certainly has for Talther, right? Because we get this. In that single glimpse of the enigmatic entity, he had found the personification of all the vague ideals and unfixed longings that had drawn him from land to land. Here was the eluding strangeness he had sought on alien breasts and waters and beyond horizons of fire-vomiting mountains. Here was the veiled star whose name and lustre he had never known, but whose magnetical attraction had led him blindly beneath southron skies and back again to Cerngoth. So for him, it's like, I don't want to quote you two, he still hasn't found what he's looking for, but now he has.
Yeah. Well, you're quoting U2, and I'm thinking about Total Recall, alien breasts.
I still can't get over Elton John. So this has touched something in his poetic soul, and this is very Smithian, right? It's like a man who's yearning for something beyond the mundane world.
Yeah.
And no matter, it's travelled all over. We get the travel itinerary at the start there and all the things that he's seen, but yet nothing has touched him in the same way that the sight of the White Sybil has.
Yeah, it's interesting because my mind went back to some of the letters I read with Samuel Loveman when he's describing his lady friends, and some of the language he uses to describe them is very, very similar. It's like, it's all very poetic the way he describes them. This eerie beauty and all this kind of stuff, right? So, I think this is definitely one of those that's kind of autobiographical, I think. The Call of the Rumpy.
Is there that sense of the one that got away as well?
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
Yeah, well, what was that song by The Residents? There's something I must tell you, there's something I must say. The only truly perfect love is one that slips away, which I thought was a great lyric. Yeah. So, again, very Smithian, yearning for something that is out of reach, or we see what happens because she becomes within reach, but...
Yeah. It is interesting as well that he sent it to Genevieve Sully.
Yeah, that's true. So this becomes an obsession for him, and he finds out what he can know without prompting on his part. His servants and visitors spoke to him of the Sybil. Seldom, they said, had she entered Cerngoth, appearing more often in cities remote from the ice-bound waste of Polarion. Truly she was no mortal being, for she had been seen on the same day in places hundreds of miles apart. Huntsmen had sometimes met her on the mountains above Cerngoth, but always, when encountered thus, she had disappeared quickly, like a morning vapour that melts among the crags.
That's a great image. I mean, that brings to mind a lot of the sailor legends, doesn't it? Of the beautiful woman on the rocks and all that kind of stuff. And all
that. And a lot of fairy stories as well, where
white ladies,
they melt in the sun and all that kind of idea of that beauty, but it's so transient. If it comes into our world, it can't maintain itself.
Yeah.
Basically, he has got this obsession. He doesn't really speak to anyone about it because, he's already a poet. People think he's mad enough as he is. I get that sort of impression.
Yeah.
But he can't stop thinking about her. The long summer days of Hyperborea went by, bringing the outland folk to trade their furs and eider in Cerngoth, and damascening the slopes beyond the city with flowers of bright azure and vermilion. But the Sybil was not seen again in Cerngoth, nor was she heard of in other cities. It seemed as if her visitations had ceased, as if, having delivered the enigmatic tidings committed to her by the outer gods, she would appear no more in the haunts of mankind. So, what does he decide to do? If she isn't going to come to him, he's going to go looking for her.
Yeah. So then we get another one of those brilliant Smithian journeys. He's very fond and very good at writing these sort of journeys through strangely beautiful, I think you'd say, or hauntingly beautiful, maybe, landscapes. Yeah, some of the language he uses is absolutely brilliant. There came the forenoon when he climbed to a hill meadow from which the roofs of the city were like littered shells beside a sea whose tumbling billows had become a smooth floor of turquoise. He was alone in a world of flowers, the frail mantle that summer had flung between the desolate peaks and Cerngoth. The turf seemed to roll away from him on every hand in broad scrolls and carpentries of flaming colour. Even the wild briars had put forth their fragile, sanguine-tinted blossoms, and the very banks and precipices were heavily arrased with low-hanging bloom.
Incredible, isn't it? Again, so vivid, so vivid. And I'm going to parallel this again with Frost Giant's Daughter, which again sees Conan go up into the mountains in search of the goddess.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read that. I think I'll have to read it. Yeah.
As the hours passed and the sun slid down its long slant to the horizon, the land changed. Far to the north he caught a glimpse of towering mountains, their eternal snows blue with distance and pink in the rays of the blood-red setting sun. In the darkling skies above them shone the flaring rays of the aurora. They spread fanwise into the sky, frosty blades of cold flaming light, changing in colour, growing and brightening. Above him the skies glowed and crackled with strange lights and gleams. The snow shone weirdly, now frosty blue, now icy crimson, now cold silver. Through a shimmering icy realm of enchantment, Conan plunged doggedly onward in a crystalline maze, where the only reality was the white body dancing across the glittering snow beyond his reach, ever beyond his reach. So again, it's that very similar or same feeling. You've come out of your normal environment, and you're up into the hills and then into the mountains. And again, this idea of you're traveling physically, but you're also traveling to another plane, another level of existence. That, again, that Fey realm or something, I think.
Yeah, it also brings echoes of some of Lovecraft stuff, like the Plateau of Leng and all this kind of stuff. These kind of high, remote, you mentioned it earlier, liminal kind of places. Yeah, that are like, like the Strange High House in the Mist and all that kind of business. The Dreamland cycle.
Yeah, and your City of Sea and Flame and everything else as well.
Exactly.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, isn't it? Yeah.
And here, this is where Tortha now sees the White Sybil, who stood amid the flowers of blood red and cerulean, like a goddess of the snow, attired in veils of moon flame. Moon flame's a great expression, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, it's this. That's what I like with this and the Howard story. It's cold, yet everything is warm coloured. It's all very red and crimson and violet.
Yeah, well, it's like when it snows and then the sun comes out and you get that lovely, almost golden sheen on ice, don't you? And on the snow and things like that. And it's incredibly dazzling and bright, and it kicks the heat back at you. So you've got the freezing cold of the snow, but you've got this warm sunlight, and that's kind of the feeling this gives me.
Yes. And again, this idea that he's under an enchantment almost, because he follows, and he can never quite reach her, but he follows up through the ravines and savage scarps into the mountains. Tortha was conscious only of an emotion such as impels the moth to pursue a wandering flame. He did not picture to himself the aim and end of his pursuit, nor the fruition of the weird love that drew him on. Oblivious of mortal fatigue, of peril and disaster that might lie before him, he felt the delirium of a mad ascent to superhuman heights.
So this could be done so well in a film, right? You get them in films where a man's been driven mad, usually like the ghost of a dead lover or something, and they're following them, and they're running and running, and they keep seeing like glimpses, and you could do a really, really good adaptation of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it has that dream feeling, doesn't it? That dream
Indeed.
logic.
Yeah.
Where you chase and you never catch, or you're being chased. Of course, is the other one as well.
Yeah, again, like Don't Look Now, right? I mean, because that's basically what that entire film is, isn't it? He's running around Venice, seeing glimpses of the red raincoat
of your child,
your dead child.
Yeah. And this does go into snowy territory as well. We get a lovely description here. Now Tortha had climbed the fretted incline of the ice that crawled out from glacier-bound Polarion. It seemed that he had gained the summit of the pass and would soon reach the open plateau beyond. But like a storm raised up by preterhuman sorcery, the falling snow was upon him now in spectral swirls and blinding flurries. It came as with the ceaseless flight of soft wide wings, the measureless coiling of vague and pallid dragons. That's a great image, isn't it? It's like the snow is almost a living thing encircling him, enfolding him.
Yeah.
But he keeps chasing.
Indeed, yeah. One of the best lines in this for the description of his now monomania is the like a moth to the flame. I love the way he's used that in this.
Because, there's quite a lot of moth in this, isn't there?
Isn't that? And it kind of, and that brings to mind the fragility of the wings and how quickly you will get singed and plummet
Yes.
to your doom. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I've got a great moth joke, by the way, but I'll save that for later.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Oh, dear. So he continues, and whereas Conan awoke at the start from unconsciousness, Tortha here, at the end of his chase, falls into unconsciousness. Tortha opened his eyes to a strange world. Whether he had fallen and had died in the storm, or had stumbled on somehow through its white oblivion, he could not guess. But around him now there was no trace of the driving snow or the glacier-shackled mountains. He stood in a valley that might have been the inmost heart of some boreal paradise, a valley that was surely no part of waste Polarian. About him the summer turf was piled with flowers that had the frail and pallid hues of a lunar rainbow. They were not the flowers that bloomed around Cerngoth. Their delicate forms were those of blossoms of snow and frost, and in spite of the elfin opulence of their colours, it seemed that they would melt and vanish at a touch. So, yeah, we've definitely passed over into another place now.
Definitely. Yeah, the tender turquoise heaven of Muthulan was vague, dreamlike, remote, and full of an infinite violescence, like the welkin of a world beyond time and space.
Beyond time and space. There we go. Also loving that, the pallid hues of a lunar rainbow.
I know.
That's great,
isn't it?
An elfin opulence.
And I can't be the only person who, hearing the line beyond time and space, got da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun. There you go, Nils. You can cross Doctor Who off your bingo card.
And there's a lot of strange things he notices here, one of which is that he casts no shadow. I was thinking this is a very sort of enchanted land thing, isn't it? No shadow. Again, there's something at the back of my mind about, well, I know there are stories about shadows. We've got the double shadow and other ones from Smith. But it's been putting me in mind of the green children of Woolpit, who said they came from a land that there was no shadow, there was a green sun or something like that. For those who don't know it, very briefly, this is Woolpit is a town out near Bury St Edmunds.
Yeah.
And 2 green children were discovered there. They just sort of popped up. I think this is in 14th century, 15th century, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And one died after a little while, but the girl lived to quite an old age and actually got married. And they said they came from this other strange land. They travelled through a cave and they ended up in Woolpit.
Nice.
It's a very strange legend, a very interesting one. But I'm pretty sure there was talk there of a land with no shadow. Yeah. So, I don't know, it just seems to fit very nicely into that fairy idea.
Well, it ties, like, that legend and some of this, the language used here, very ties into Macon, doesn't it? White people and things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And here at last is the object of his obsession as she turns and greets him. He thought that the Sybil greeted him in thrilling, mellifluous words of a tongue that he knew well, but had never heard. Her tones filled him with an ecstasy near to pain. He sat beside her on the fairy bank, and she told him many things, divine, stupendous, perilous things, dire as the secret of life, sweet as the lore of oblivion, strange and immemorable as the lost knowledge of sleep. But she did not tell him her name, nor the secret of her essence, and still he knew not if she were ghost or woman, goddess or spirit. The Lore of Oblivion, that's got to be an album title.
Oh, yeah.
Or a story or something, I don't know.
The Lore of Oblivion, yeah, yeah. Lost knowledge of sleep. I was just filing that away for future song title.
That's a beautiful description of that thing, isn't it? When you wake up and the dream fades like smoke. You know, it can be a very vivid dream, but you just catch little bits of it, and 10 minutes later, it's you know, you've got to feed the cat. And
I'm writing that in my lyric book. That's a song lyric, isn't it?
It is. You know? It is. Yeah. And I like this idea that she won't say her name as well, which again goes back to a lot of those old enchantment and fairy stories. And he basically sits and listens.
Yeah.
He felt a delirium of mortal desire mixed with the vertigo of one who has climbed to an impossible height. He saw only the flame-white loveliness of his divinity, and no longer did he hear clearly the high wisdom of her speech. The Sybil paused in her ineffable discourse, and somehow, with slow and stumbling words, he dared to tell her of his love. And this is where it goes wrong.
It is. I was just about to say, this is where it all goes wonky.
This is quite a tone shift, isn't it?
I love it. I absolutely love it because I was not expecting. I've never read this one before, and I was not expecting the tonal shift in this next paragraph.
This goes into full-on Jamesian wallop, right?
Doesn't it? It is a Jamesian wallop. Yeah.
Bang. Shit.
Yeah.
She regarded him strangely, whether with love or pity, sadness or joy, he could not tell. Then swiftly she bent forward and kissed his brow with her pallid lips. Their touch was like the searing of fire or ice, but mad with his supreme longing, Tortha strove rashly to embrace the Sybil. Dreadfully, unutterably, she seemed to change in his arms, even as he clasped her, to become a frozen corpse that had lain for ages in a flow-built tomb, a leper-white mummy in whose frosted eyes he read the horror of the ultimate void. Then she was a thing that had no form or name, a dark corruption that flowed and eddied like some dark liquid in his arms, a hueless dust, a flight of gleaming atoms that rose between his evaded fingers. Then there was nothing.
Brilliant. Kind of reminiscent of that scene in The Shining, isn't it? The woman in the bath.
Yes.
Kind of reminiscent of that. And then it just carries on, doesn't it? The fairy-tinted flowers about him were changing also, were crumbling swiftly, were falling beneath flurries of white snow. It's like this realm is just collapsing in on itself.
Yeah.
It's great. It's quite, like you say, it's quite a shock. It's just like,
yeah, because I don't know what I was expecting, really. I've read this before, but I can't remember now. It would have been quite a while ago what I would have been expecting at that point. I think this being Smith, you expect it's going to go wrong. I mean, now I would. You expect that,
of course,
it's going to come back and 500 years have passed, or, we're back to that Mound of Venus thing we were talking about before, weren't we, with the disinterment of Venus. You're taken away to this other place. But it's not like what was his mistake here? Trying to grab her, put his arms around her?
I think it was the declaration of love. That's when it seems to go sideways, isn't it?
That's now let's put that into perspective.
Exactly.
Of Smith's life, eh?
Exactly. That's kind of why it stood out to me. That's why I'm going to have to go through that Loveman letters and dig out some examples for a forthcoming bonus, because we'll do an episode on the love life of Clark Ashton Smith.
It might take a couple.
Yeah, exactly.
And after the chase as well, right? Well, there's the Motorhead song, isn't it? The chase is better than the catch.
Indeed. Yeah. Oh, it's a banger as well.
Yeah. So here he's attained his heart's desire and it crumbles in his arms. That's quite a powerful image, isn't it?
And that's a recurring theme in Smith, right? Like with the final incantation and stuff like that. He resurrects his long lost love, only to find out that he's changed, she hasn't, and then it's just hollow sucker kind of thing. It's just
hot, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I like the fact, yes, it's a Jamesian wallop, but then it goes beyond that, because the Jamesian wallop is the corpse. Right.
Oh yeah, you get the Lovecraftian wallop.
Yes,
formless mist.
Yeah, we're back. We're going sort of through Ubo Sattler, don't we, or something?
Indeed, yeah.
And into then just atoms floating away into nothingness. Yeah. So you've got 3 wallops in there for the price of 1, I think. So that's nice because it takes it beyond that horror. I can think of a couple of horror stories where someone goes to bed with someone and wakes up with a corpse next to them.
It's a common trope.
That's a standard trope, isn't it? Really, in whether that be vampire or whatever, So yeah, but Smith adds that cosmic note in there as well.
Indeed, I think. Well, there's that whole ambiguousness of the Sybil herself. They're saying that she's like some messenger or envoy of some deity. Who knows? It might even be one of the many, many faces of old Gnarly. You never know.
Actually, there's the thing. Gnarly's always a male avatar.
Indeed.
As far as I can think, if any of our listeners know of any different presentations, I'd be interested to hear. We have Natocris.
Natocris.
I'm not sure that she was an avatar as such.
No, it wasn't. No. Natocris was an altogether different kettle of fish.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, does Nyarlathotep always have to manifest in male form?
It's really interesting.
So then we get one of Smith's transitions, right, where someone goes from place to place.
Mhm.
Now, the transition to this land was reasonably pleasant. You know, lovely flowers, the odd-coloured sky, all the rest of it. Well, we had a bit of snow, I suppose. That was the unpleasant bit. But the journey back is not quite not quite so nice. It seemed to Tortha that he was plunging dizzily into some deep gulf, together with that illimitable chaos of driven snows. Gradually, as he fell, the air grew clear about him, and he appeared to hang suspended above the receding, dissolving storm. He was alone in a still, funereal, starless heaven, like the catafalque of some dying world. And below, at an awesome and giddying distance, he saw the dimly glittering reaches of a land sheathed with glacial ice from horizon to far-curved horizon. The snows had vanished from the dead air, and a searing cold like the breath of the infinite ether was about Tortha. All this he saw and felt for a timeless instant. Then, with the swiftness of a meteor, he resumed his fall toward the frozen continent. So, again, that's quite dreamlike, the falling thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And is found by a local tribe in the mountains, lying in the snow. Again, this is very similar to the ending of Frost Giant's Daughter, where Conan's colleagues find him unconscious in the snow. I won't spoil the ending, but
gotcha.
You know, again, the parallels are quite striking. And I like this. They tended him with rough care and uncouth skill, marvelling much at the white mark that had been imprinted like a fiery brand on his sun-swart brow. The flesh was seared deeply, and the mark was shaped like the pressure of lips. So that her touch was injurious. So it is marked not only physically, but psychologically and emotionally as well.
Oh, yeah, because that's his brain's pretty much, he's failed his sun roll, hasn't he, by this point? Because it's ever afterward, there was a cloudy dimness in his mind, a blur of unresolving shadow, like the dazzlement in eyes that have looked on some insupportable light. Never again did he behold the Sybil, and never was he able to recall wholly the things that had happened to him, or which he had dreamt as he lay unconscious on the drear threshold of Polarian. And yet the memory, vague, imperfect, broken, was more to him than the memory of 1,000 suns in the great darkness that had come upon his days. So he's a broken man, pretty much.
Yes, it's a poignant ending, isn't it? And again, weird fiction, unreliable narrator. You know,
well, exactly.
There's all those considerations as well.
And he'd just gone loopy and wandered off, you know.
Did he eat the wrong mushrooms and gone up into the mountains? But then he has the scar. And again, all right, I will spoil the Frost Giant's Daughter, because again, Conan is awoken, and they say to him, well, what you do? Why do you wander all the way up here? And he said, oh, there was a woman and I chased her, blah, blah, blah. And they say, oh, right, yeah, you know, is touched in the head. And one of the old warriors says, oh, no, that was Atali, the Frost Giant's daughter. And they'll go, oh, yeah, of course it was. But then Conan's holding Gossamer robe in his clenched fist.
Oh, nice.
So there's that tangible item. So here you've got that scar. How else would you get a scar like that? But from the kiss of the Sybil, you know.
Yeah, because that's a great ending, and it's a very Smithian ending, very downbeat. So you can see his thinking here, because we're going to switch over now to the alternative conclusion, which is pretty much, it's just one paragraph at the end. It's just an extra paragraph, pretty much. It goes up to the line of a blur of unresolving shadow, like the dazzlement in eyes that have looked on some insupportable light. So now we get this new paragraph. He's given it a romantic twist, to obviously probably to get round Farnsworth right, you know. Among those who tended him was a pale maiden, not uncomely, and Tortha took her for the Sybil in the darkness that had come upon him. The maiden's name was Ilara, and Tortha loved her in his delusion, and forgetful of his kin and his friends in Cerngoth, he dwelt with the mountain people thereafter, taking Ilara to wife and making the songs of the little tribe. For the most part, he was happy in his belief that the Sybil had returned to him, and Ilara, in her way, was content, being not the first of mortal women whose lover had remained faithful to a divine illusion. So that's a nice ending in its own. He's downbeat in his own way, right?
Yeah, it's kind of happier, but it's not happier, isn't it? Yeah, I think I prefer the first ending.
I do. Yeah. I do. I don't think Smith's capable of writing a true happy ending.
No,
Like
no.
Lovecraft isn't, and I'm not. I don't think I am.
Well, I mean, let's get cynical or realistic or whatever you want to call it for. There are no happy endings, are they? Because we know how everything ends, right?
That's really funny. Do you know why that's really funny? One of the songs I've written for Grooving in Green is called "No Happy Endings." It's one of the ones we do in our live set. There you go.
Is that just when you can't get into the massage parlour? It's closed again.
Or the mucky bookstore.
Yes, just to bring it, I don't want us to get too elevated.
No.
Always back down to the gutter. Is happy, but is living a delusion.
Yeah, he's living a lie.
Then there's that question. Is it better to be happy and ignorant or in an illusion than to know the truth and be miserable about it? I don't know.
Ignorance is bliss. There we go.
Well, and we're back on our island of ignorance, and we're not meant to venture far, right?
That's the one.
So, yeah, again, I know we always say it, but I'm amazed by the depth in these so-called pulp stories that you can start extracting all these quite deep themes out of them.
Oh yeah, I think this is why I have such a natural aversion to the term elevated horror, which is the current buzzword. And it's no different to things like Smith was writing or Ramsey Campbell writes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I would say his stuff, especially like things like Midnight Sun and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just people trying to put it's marketing, isn't it? It's just a marketing ploy.
Well, yeah. And I mean, is it just good horror and bad horror? I mean,
well, there you go.
Was it Count Basie who said there's only two types of music, good music and bad music? I'm not sure. Someone like that. Oscar Peterson, maybe. But
Bernard Black in Black Books. There's only two kinds of wine. Crap wine and good wine.
There's just wine for me. I mean, yeah. So that, but then you get into the very notion of what horror is, don't you? And so you got that horror if you wake up next to a corpse, or you got body horror. But I think when you get into the weird fiction and cosmic horror, it is elevated in the sense that the horror is much deeper and more, what's the word? Well, if we get into Ligotti, it's almost philosophical horror, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're facing our own possible total insignificance.
Well, Thomas Ligotti is basically an existential crisis in print. That's what it is. Yeah. And you can't read it without having an existential crisis.
Totally. I think this is why, or one reason perhaps, Lovecraft seemed to be so popular in France, because that was the home of people like Camus, who also wrote a book called The Outsider, right? Yeah. That whole existentialist movement seemed to be very strong in France. Sartre and all the rest.
Yeah.
So those themes of alienation and particularly in terms of modern society, as society was developed in the 20th century, seemed to become more alienating. Religion's gone. Science is leading us into nuclear devastation. You know, it's interesting,
isn't it? Yeah.
And here's Tom with the weather. And now we add into that heady mix social media, and
oh my god,
as we were chatting about just earlier, it's not getting any more sane, is it?
Like seriously, I honestly thought I was still asleep when I looked at the newsfeed the other morning, and I was like, either I'm still asleep and dreaming, or the world has gone insane.
Yeah. Yes, we're back to old Niali again, aren't we?
Aren't we just?
Yeah. This is Smith's genius again to me, that he draws on those fairy tale tropes that everyone would have been familiar with, especially back then, because this is your Grimms and all the rest of it, your folk tales from every culture, really.
Uh-huh.
But it's changed into something else somehow. There's that other little twist he brings to it. It sort of takes it beyond that Ichabod Crane type of story. You know, it does. It gives it that cosmic dimension, I think.
Yeah.
There we go then. The White Sybil. As always, we'd be very interested to hear what you think. Your comments, questions and suggestions are all most welcome. We do have some stuff in the mailbag. We'll be looking at that next time. Speaking of which, I think there's a theme. We continue the theme, don't we, in our next story?
Oh, we do. Yeah, we're still in Hyperborea with the ice demon. Nice. So yeah, it's there is a definite theme here.
Yeah, so we do hope you can join us for that. Thanks for listening today. As always, we'd like to very much thank our supporters and patrons. If you'd like to join them, check out our Patreon site. You get access to bonus content from Strange Shadows and the Innsmouth Book Club. In fact, we're going to be working on the next Patreon episode for the IBC very soon. We're continuing our look at the fungi from Yoggoth Sonnet Cycle from Mr. Lovecraft. And we're just getting up to Southroun as well.
Yes.
Old Toady himself. So
yes, old Toady.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Smith references in that one.
Well, we're going to be discussing the statuette, aren't we?
Yes, on the mantelpiece that moved of its own accord.
The statuette on the mantelpiece. There you go. There's a Lovecraftian title, a story title right there. The statuette on the mantelpiece. I'm surprised Lynn Carter didn't do it.
Oh dear. Yeah. And before we go, I'll just leave you with my moth joke then, because I heard this the other day. This was Norm MacDonald on an American chat show. Now, I'm going to give you the very, very cut down version because, it can be a bit of a shaggy dog story. So there's a chiropodist just packing up for the night. He's just about to go home. There's a soft tap on his door and he opens it and there's a moth. And the moth says, "Can I come in?" And the chiropodist says, "Yeah, okay. If you'd like to take a seat in the chair there." So the moth flutters over and settles down in the chair. And the chiropodist says, "How can I help you?" And the moth says, "Well, I'm going through a bit of a bad time at the moment. Things are very tough at work. I don't seem to be able to get on with my colleagues and, everything's a bit of a struggle. And then when I go home, I'm not getting on well with my family either. My wife and I are constantly arguing. The kids are always annoying me. They're always under my feet. I'm just feeling a bit down about everything." And the chiropodist says, "Well, that's, very sad. I'm very sorry to hear that. But I'm a chiropodist, Maybe you should think about going to see a psychiatrist or a therapist. Why did you come to me?" And the moth says, "Because your light was on."
Nice.
And on that note,
Dear God,
I do apologise. It's goodbye from me, Rob Hyton.
And it's goodbye from me, Tim Mendes.